Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to week 10 of our course. This week we're starting a brand new section of the course. We're talking about and learning about the literature review, which is a very important genre within the larger scope of research writing. So most all academic scholarly writing has a literature review portion of that writing, or sometimes, as you'll learn this week, literature reviews are the point of the academic writing in total, in sum. So this week what you're going to be doing is starting the next major activity or next major assignment of the course, which is the literature review assignment. And this assignment asks you to work with some resources I've provided you in the assignment sheet in order to learn more about literature reviews. That's the first step, and this really assumes that you don't have a sophisticated understanding of a literature review. You might have heard the terminology before, you might have read literature reviews. I'm sure you have read literature review sections of some of the scholarship you were reading, but you probably haven't ever put a full literature review together or thought critically and reflectively about the function of this particular subgenre of research writing. So the first half of this assignment asks you to do some of that reflective writing about what you're learning about this genre. The second half asks you to actually compose a literature review that you will use in some iteration in your own revision project toward the end of the semester. So that is what your next big task is. You have 2 weeks to complete this assignment, and I really encourage you to get started with it this week. I give you some advice in the assignment sheet about how you might want to portion out your time in order to make sure that you can best complete this assignment successfully and have time to check in with me if you have any questions about doing so. Okay, so I did want to give you one example from a literature review that I recently read, and the literature review, as you will be learning this week, is it can have multiple functions, but I think in the most basic sense, it is where you communicate to your readers the literature that you have read and you have used as a research writer to inform your position, to inform and understand what you need to say that's interesting and useful to your readership. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, that's what you're going to focus on this week, but I did want to show you this essay, which is from the Journal of Business and Technical Communication, and I'm not going to give you a copy of this because it's pretty long and I have no expectation for you to read it. I just wanted to highlight one particular approach to doing a literature review that I thought was a good model and could be instructive to you. So this is an article that I read this week for a project I'm working on. And the concept of the article is really this idea of transfer. So this is kind of the key idea, the key concept, the key word that comes up through the article. And it's written by Doug Brent, and he has a really interesting approach to doing his literature review. It's broken up into 3 sections, and I want to show you section 2 and section 3. So section 2, he calls stage 2, but this is really the literature review portion of his essay, and he labels it glass half empty. And section 3, which is way down here, he labels glass half full. Okay, and so you can see that in a full academic article, this is where this literature review kind of ends. This is a bulky section of Brent's article, all of this literature review. But why I'm showing it to you today is for this reason. Let me go back up here to glass half empty. I thought that this was a really interesting way that Brent has synthesized the literature in a sort of unique and thoughtful and very accessible way for his readers. So what he's basically saying in these 2 sections of the essay is that people who talk about this concept of transfer and scholars who have written about transfer tend to write about it in two different ways. Some of them, whatever they're saying about transfer is kind of a negative or pessimistic outlook. Transfer is a problem for doing what people would like to do who use that concept. Then he also says in the glass half full section that there is another group of scholars who deal with this idea of transfer in a more optimistic way and say, hey, transfer can be a really useful concept and we think that it works well. So, there's no need for you to know more of the nuance of this literature review, but when I was reading it this weekend, I thought, oh, it's a really good example of how Brent really synthesized these ideas, and you can just tell he did a lot of thinking about the ways in which the literature was speaking back to him and kind of the bigger patterns that he was seeing. I'm sure that no one in the glass half empty section of the literature review, none of those scholars wrote glass half empty in their essay or negative or pessimistic in their essay, nor do I think any of the scholarship in the glass half full section referred to itself as being optimistic or positive or anything like that. This is really what Brent brings to his reading of the literature, and I think that is what a very, very sophisticated literature review can do. And the fact that he uses these titles, glass half empty, glass half full, they're very easy to remember, they're very accessible, they just help his readers, people like me who are reading this article, see very clearly how there are different approaches to this idea, and this is something that he realized after he had done that careful reading and thinking about each of those pieces of literature, not only by themselves, but in relationship to one another. And it can take some time to get to a point where you do a literature review that does this type of synthesizing work, but that really is one of the goals of a really useful, high-quality, informative literature review. So I thought that it would be a very good example to kind of show you, just in passing, about what is possible when you do a literature review. Okay, hope that was helpful. I look forward to hearing from any of you if you have questions about this upcoming assignment, and you should look forward to hearing from me as I continue to do some grading and give you some feedback over the next week. Thanks, everyone.